Happy Wednesday. I hope everyone had an awesome Christmas. As you can see, we stay a little jolly shortly after. I'll probably leave them up through my birthday. It's kind of a tradition. When your birthday is beginning of January, you take a little bit of liberties. So I hope you are just as jolly. And also enjoying your time because right now, a lot of people are off work, kids are out of school. You get that weird, lovely week between Christmas and New Year. So if you guys are watching this, despite everything going on this week, thank you for sticking it out with me. And if you're bored, I'm sorry. And if you are just really, really into the content I put out, I appreciate it. But yeah, it's still holiday time. But because there is this rest, if you have kids, it's not rest. But because we have this time where most people are using it to not be constantly working, except me. It's the perfect time to really focus on what you're doing in the upcoming year, because it starts next week, right? Time flies. And I know that I have done a number of things the past couple months about 2024, getting ready for it, but it's really, really important right now because a lot of things are coming up. So we're going to be talking about how you can get your finances right for 2024. Now, keep in mind, this is basic. It's based on what I do for a job. And it's not going to be like a full financial plan. If you need one, I know a person, like I do with most things. But it's really, really important to pay attention to what's coming up so that you can be ready. If you are looking to purchase a home in 2024, start now. Get connected with me. We'll get you connected with the lender, and go ahead and get all of your ducks in a row. Even if it's not in 2024, but you know it's in the next few years, we need to start now. Biggest things before the new year, though, are if you are looking to purchase, how you can be prepared. People really, really mess themselves up in the first part of the year without realizing it. So we're going to talk about some of that and make sure that you don't have to wait a whole extra year just because you made a mistake. Right now, I'm going to use some numbers that are typical of first-time home buyers, but you may fall into this without it. And, even if you're not in that demographic, similar things apply, but different numbers, right? So thankfully, it's still not super crazy yet, as people get their tax returns, which we'll touch on. But as people get their tax returns and interest rates, hopefully still come down, it's going to be competitive again in the spring market. So look at it early if you can. But right now, we're still seeing like you can probably get a home for $250. Hopefully. So, basing it off of a $250,000 house, assuming you're using an FHA loan with a 3.5% down payment. Keep in mind there are 0% down options as well if these numbers don't work for you. But in conventional, you can do more or less depending on your situation. But I digress. FHA, 3.5% down, typical. So on a $250,000 house, that's $8,750. Most of you probably don't have that in your pocket, especially the way the economy is lately. I know my personal finances have been like a whole lot of money in and a whole lot of money out, and I know a lot of you are the same. But we can break that number down and make it a lot easier to swallow. So I did a little research, and the average tax return in the United States the last few years over and over and over averaged between $2,700 and $2,900. So we're just going to take that average right in the middle, $2,800. So out of that $8,750 you hypothetically would need, we're going to assume you're getting $2,800 back in taxes. And then that brings it down to $5,950, right? That sounds a little more doable, still probably a little higher than you want. But if that couple thousand is helpful, then let's use it. Don't spend it on getting anything you don't need. Put it away towards your home. But then out of that $5,950, if we break that down, that's only $114.42 a week. Now, if you're like me, you probably spend that on gas and food or more. And there are probably things that you can cut out to take all of that, or at least some of that, away and save it. So if you divide that number, even just 5 days a week, that's $23 a day. Who here probably spends $23 a day going out in some fashion or buying something they don't need? Those Amazon boxes that have been arriving at your house for the last 2 months probably adds up to $23 a day or more, right? I'm guilty. Okay. If you save that for this entire year, coupled with that tax return, you don't even need to worry about next year's tax return, because that in total is your down payment. But then if you add next year's tax return, you are giving yourself a little more wiggle room. So if you are good on your pre-approval, you just don't know where you're getting your down payment and you need one, there's some places you can pull it from. Other things people don't think about, you can pull your down payment from your 401k without penalty. Caveat that I'm not a tax professional, definitely double check with the tax professional, and disclaimer, don't hold me to that because I don't know what I'm talking about. But there are a lot of things that you can do without tax penalties. So look at potentially pulling it from your 401k, especially if you're a young adult, you're in your 20s, maybe early 30s, you've had a job for a few years, you probably have a pretty good nest egg in there, but you're not anywhere near needing it. And you're going to have plenty of time to replenish that. So go ahead, pull that out, put it into an investment, which is your home, and save that way. Other things you can do are, again, 0% down. Oh, I'm so sorry. Kids are home. It's late. I'm exhausted. Lost what I was talking about. Oh, joys of lives. Y'all get to see me be super bad on video. I really forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, it'll come to me. But tax return, budgeting. If you do not have a solid budget, make one. If you need help with that, I know people. And just look at what you want to do. Make sure you're talking with a lender early. These tips are mainly geared towards those of you who get a W-2 at the end of the year. And you're going to get a tax return, right? But then I want to pivot and talk to my business owners and self-employed people because we're a little bit different. A lot of us pay the government or go through a lot to pay the government less. And so think about that as well. If you are looking at purchasing, do not write off too much. But also run numbers with your lender and see, they can't tell you what your income needs to show for you to qualify for a certain amount, but you can kind of work that backwards. If you're like, okay, this is what I will have made if I don't write off anything. This is what I will have made if I'm counting all my write-offs. Run the numbers on both, figure out kind of where you need to be. If there's some things that you can write off that are going to make you go below the number you need to purchase what you're looking at, maybe don't write those things off. Just take the hit this year. You may need to do that 2 years. It just depends on the loan type you're looking at and what your previous year was. So make sure you guys are talking to your tax professional and your lender before you file taxes. It is so important because you can screw yourself out of purchasing for a year or 2 years, or sometimes even more. Just depends. So make sure that you're setting yourself up for that. And then anyone who has long-term goals of purchasing, I want you guys to make your corny New Year's resolutions to be things that put money in your pocket. A lot of you know I talk about my business partner a lot because he is basically my work husband, which I always feel like is a weird term, but they're very similar. My actual husband, though he doesn't love it, he will sit there and eat cold ravioli out of a can before he spends money we don't have, or spends things we don't need to, or doesn't get something he wants. Like, literally, this man is eating tuna out of pouches every day for lunch so that he can go buy $100 pipe. And then he can bulk order his tobacco. And he can get the things that he wants because he doesn't care about the food as much, and he'd rather sacrifice that. Everything in life has a sacrifice. So you really need to take into account what you want more. Unfortunately, I'm the opposite, and I cannot just eat crap, and I will go spend $30 on a meal and not blink. But then when I'm shopping for clothes, a $30 shirt makes me want to throw up. So I'm working on that because it's not logical. And then my business partner is similar. He's amazing. He does not let me spend anything over 100 without talking to him. It's not really something that he's made up. But I've noticed that anytime it's over that threshold, there's a conversation of our budget. And so I've just made that rule for myself. But we talk through everything, like a $10 purchase. We're asking each other, do we need it? I want you to do that with your business partner, with your spouse, and honestly with yourself, because a lot of times we're just impulsively like, oh, that's cute, I want it. All these things on my mantle. But is it adding to your life? There's a reason we have very minimal decorations, and we put the same ones in a box and take them back out, and we buy 1 or 2 a year just so we get that little rush, but we're not spending hundreds. So do that with your finances, with your budgeting. Again, going back to my business partner, he, at least for a portion of this past year, brought lunch with him. And I thought his lunches were pathetic. They reminded me of my own husband's. And one day we're sitting there in the office working, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm going for lunch. Cause again, that's Kelly's problem, eating out. And he has a meat stick and a muffin and I think a piece of fruit maybe. And that was his lunch. And I could not do that, but I need to do that because then know what he does? He says that the money that he would normally spend on eating out or a Starbucks coffee, case in point, he goes in his Robinhood app and he invests that into his stocks. You can invest as little as you want. So that this was about $7. This $7 coffee could be a portion of a share in Chick-fil-A or Starbucks. And that's the funny thing is he does it to where he would have spent his money anyway. So instead of buying from Starbucks, he's investing in Starbucks and profiting off of people like me who buy the Starbucks. So little things like that can help you build wealth over time. I've used a platform called Stash. It's kind of similar to Robinhood. And you can do stuff like that too. They have whole little portfolios that you can select from if you don't want to pick and choose what stocks you're doing. They're so sorry, you guys. Like, really, thanks for sticking this out with me. And little things like that build and build and build. And then if you're like me and you want investment properties, really, you're like, I really don't want to have 2 mortgages. I don't know that I could do 2 mortgages. And I also just don't have the capital. Like, I don't have $300,000 in the bank. I hopefully will soon. Do not. But you don't have to. You don't have to buy it cash. You can finance it. Even if you personally don't qualify, there are loans that look at the cash flow of the leases that you have in place on a particular property already. So then as long as that property has good enough numbers to be self-sustaining with a little bit of a cushion, they don't even look at you much. You do have to have money in reserves, but it's not as hard to save up $20,000 as it is to save up 300,000, right? Other things you can do are find other people that want to do the same thing, and you form an LLC and you invest in it together. Now, make sure these are people you trust. Make sure you have really good operating agreements in your LLC. And so everything's ironclad. No one's going to lose out. But you don't have to do it alone. There are so many things that are owned by multiple people. There are a couple local businesses that are owned by like 16 different people. Personally, I'd keep it at like 4 absolute max. I really think 2 to 3 is ideal. Probably 3 because then there's a tiebreaker. Everything that I do has to be unanimous because there's 2 of us, right? So if we disagree, guess what? Someone is caving or nothing's happening. But there are options that you just don't think about until you're in the world of it. So look at that too. If you guys have a house, you like your house, you want to start investing, maybe take those tax returns you're getting and partner with a like-minded friend or colleague who also has a tax return coming in, and you can combine those to get your down payment. And then hopefully you guys have some money in reserves too. But again, we can get you with the lender, talk through that, see what you need to have, and we can start shopping for a house. So I hope this has been insightful. As always, rambling on live. One day I'll probably get better. It's been about 9 months and I'm still doing the same stuff. So fingers crossed for me that you guys will have something a little more concise to come back to in the coming months. I promise I'm working on it. This is me and you get what you get. And I love you for coming back. But I will talk to you guys all next week when it is next year, 2024. It's crazy. But yeah, happy continuing the holidays and I'll talk to you soon.